The Old Gold Club, powered by Wolverhampton Building Supplies, with Mikey Burrows and Chris Iwelumo.
Welcome along to the Old Gold Club. I'm Mikey Burrows, alongside me, Chris Iwelumo. Our guest this week spent more than 10 years at Molineux, working his way through the academy age groups to the first team, where he became a cult figure to many, including me, with his metronomic passing and his incredible beard. The club genuinely, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, isn't the same without him. A big, all right, my mate, to Jack Price. Welcome back to Molineux.
Thank you very much, Mon.
I mean, the place doesn't look that different from when you left, to be honest with you.
It doesn't here. I know a lot of things have changed since I left, but no, it looks the same.
Do you miss it?
A little bit, yeah, I do. Obviously, no player really wants to maybe move on when you realise it's time. It's hard to, when you've been here this long, it's hard to accept that it is time, to go. And I probably saw myself staying here for the rest of my career, if I'm honest, and it hasn't worked out that way, and that is life. That's football, and I'm grateful for the chance I've got now in America and playing some football over there and trying to do my best.
Can you just explain, obviously the fans and you are a cult hero to a lot, how does that actually feel, as a player, because you know what you're about, you know how fit you are, you know what you can bring to the dressing room on and off the pitch, and it's not enough. How because it's like, when it must be so hard to accept, but I guess looking at a fan from the outside, they don't really understand. We're all humans at the end of the day.
It's frustrating. I think that's the main thing. Obviously, you give your all every time you're out there, and it's frustrating to realise there's probably someone better than you that's playing in your position, and rightly so deserves to be out there. And it's obviously said the fans don't get to see this side. It's tough to take, and I probably stayed a little bit longer maybe than I should have at that start of the season. I had a great pre-season. When Nuno first come in, and probably my best one as a Wolves player. And we went to Austria. I did well. I was fit. I was ready to go. And that first game against Middlesbrough at home, I wasn't even in the 18, and that was probably a sign that it was time to go. And I stayed a little bit longer than maybe I should have. But I think it was me probably not accepting the fact it was time to move on. And like I said before, I probably saw myself as a player that would be here for many more years, and it just didn't quite work out. And it's a shame, but you move on. And
when you talk about like accepting that someone else is better than you, in a way, like, does it help that it was Ruben Neves, who was a Champions League level midfielder coming into a championship team?
Of course, you accept the fact there is better players, and Neves is his top qualities. He's going to move on to the biggest clubs in Europe, isn't he? And it's still hard to accept the fact that I'm not playing and someone else is better than you, because obviously you want to be the best player, and I wanted to be the best player for Wolves, but it's tough. But when it is someone like Neves, it's a lot easier to accept. He's put in some great performances over the last 12 months, and big clubs are talking about him, so it's a lot easier.
We'll get to all of that. I want you to go right back to the start, because you would have been, I can't imagine what age group you were.
Are you going to come for my age now? I tell you what, it's just from the start.
Well, listen,
do you just write these? Just wake up in the middle of the night and just write them in your little pad beside your bed? Oh, that's a good one. I'll come for him again.
Chris again.
Well, no, because when you were here as a player,
don't let me interrupt. You carry on. You take it where you want.
No. Don't get upset. When you were here as a player, Jack was in the academy. I'm thinking you would have been. Yeah, I'm thinking. See, he's gone for you.
Joking.
Not me. He's gone for you there.
Oh,
I don't know what age it would have been.
Yeah, because would you have crossed paths at any point?
I think I would have been around the reserves, youth team reserves, when Chris would have been first team player. Maybe trained a couple of times.
Oh.
Maybe you wouldn't have remembered me. I was just a little.
I remember Danny Bath coming through as a young boy, and I remember Mick McCarthy said, "Yeah, go hard on him."
Yeah,
and he loved every bit of it. And that was one of the things. So it's just little moments that you remember.
Because down at the training ground down at Compton, there's the one part of the corridor we're going to talk about in a bit. But going up the steps to the academy coaches' dressing room, there's all kind of the academy team photos, like big group photos, and it goes through the years and stuff. And there are some great photos of like you and Danny and some of the other guys that came through in that period. You can see them like right back to when you're like 8 years old.
I'm a bit disappointed actually. The one photo they have picked to put me on the wall is the one where I said we had a bit of weight. gerbil cheeks. And it wasn't even a picture of me playing first team, it was a reserve picture.
What do you learn from that? Always be ready.
Exactly.
Always be ready.
I think he looks so weird without a beard.
And I had no beard, yeah.
He looks like Alex Bruce without a beard, honestly.
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Honestly, I'm not the only one that
His
said
nose is
that.
over here.
I'm not the only one that
I
said
actually,
that. No, I didn't
I
say
thought
Steve Bruce. Alex Bruce.
Yeah, his son.
Well, he's had his nose fixed because he headbutted my elbow
There you go.
when we played Watford against Leeds, and he actually got taken off, but he thanked me on a night out. He's good friends with a friend of mine, and he went and got his nose straightened and fixed.
And you said I look like that.
Yeah.
He's just coming for this. You know what?
I've just spent 20 minutes on the podcast telling everyone how you're my absolute hero. So just take it
Okay.
that you said this.
That's fair.
Anyway, so back to that. Before the beard, when you were a young boy coming through, talk to us about that group of people that you were coming through. What was the academy like at that time?
It was great. Obviously, before my time, we had like Mark Davis, them sort of players, Elliot Bennett, Kyle Bennett. They were 3 or 4 years above me. So I think seeing them progress to the first team, it was a case of me thinking, if I do want this and I want to go for it, it's possible. And I was one of them at school that never really did anything else apart from play football and not even spend time with my mates. I'd rather just go to training, and I was quite thankful I was here at a young age from 8 years old, and I didn't really have time to go out and play with my friends, and I think that played a massive part in me eventually making it as a first team. And it wasn't easy. I thank my family and mum and dad especially for bringing me on these cold Tuesday, Thursday nights every week at Aldersley, and if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have gone as far as I have. But yeah, seeing them sort of players come through, Danny Bath as well, like you said before, and it made it real for me, and I could see watching in the stands, watching them play, that it's possible if I was to keep my head down and work hard that I could come and play for this club.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of set yourself kind of realistic goals, and you see players breaking through and doing well. What the way, obviously that it's not all plain sailing. There was difficult times. Is there ever a point that you felt that it wasn't going to happen? Because obviously, like you say, you have to come into the squad now and not just add to the depth, it's the quality of the squad as well.
It was probably a little bit earlier than when I made it into the first team, where I think I was 15, 16. I'd just got my scholarship, and I had to move into digs for 2 weeks because obviously I was getting the train every day and it wasn't possible for me to keep doing that. So, and then there was a time where I remember, I think it was Kev Felwell, who was the academy director at the time. Me and my dad had a meeting with him, and they said, "Listen, we want Jack to stay." And I was like, "Dad, I don't think I want to do this anymore." And they were like, "Well, just see how you go. Stay in digs for 2 weeks, give it," and probably no one really knows about this. And so I stuck with it, and eventually, I started enjoying it more, and I then got a car, so it was easy for me to travel in. I probably didn't really enjoy digs that much, so I did my test as soon as I could, and that was hard times. And I remember there was a bloke, John Trollope, who was my under-16s coach, so I wasn't going to get a scholarship if it wasn't down to him. They said I was going to be too small and never strong enough, which I used to get all my career when I was a young boy. And John said, "No, listen, he'll be a good player. Just give him time, give him a couple of years." And they give me a scholarship, and I haven't really looked back from there. And I had a good 2 years. I was out for 9 months my first year as a scholar. I had a hip surgery, and that was tough. But then second year, I come back, and I think it made me probably wanted it more, being out for so long and realising that there's probably nothing else in life I could do apart from play football. And it was either that or work with my dad as a mechanic, and I wasn't really cut out for that side of the world. So yeah, it was tough times as a youth team player, but I got through that, and I was thankful to.
But that's probably put you in a good position, probably mentally, for whatever's going to come in your career. That prepares you for that.
I agree. Yeah, obviously, even the things where you have to go into digs for 2 weeks, it makes you a stronger person. Now, obviously, I'm living on the other side of the world, so I think if I didn't do that, I definitely would not have took this opportunity. And I think it's made me a better person. I've grown up as a man, and that's only helped by experiencing what I am out in America and enjoying life now.
Because Looms has touched on it a little bit before, that you found it tough quite a few times. There were moments, after you've got in the team and then you're not quite in it, and then you had to go out on loan for a couple of times and came back, and even then kind of never seemed like you were fully settled and integrated into it.
Yeah, and I feel that as well. I feel, especially it was the year after we got promoted from League One. I got sent out on loan to Yeovil for a month and then Leyton Orient for another month. But it never crossed my mind that I'd never not come back and play here. I still felt like I had a massive part to play at the club, but it always seemed when the team was struggling a little bit, that's when they would sort of, chuck me in and steady the ship, and I wanted probably a little bit more than that, a consistent game time, I wanted to be an important player, and I was an important squad player, probably more than the first 11, but I got comfortable. I allowed that to be what I was, and I probably should have maybe knocked the manager's door a few more times than I did, and say, listen, you chuck me in when times are hard, just give me a run of 5 games, and if that's not enough, that's not enough, but I can guarantee you that I will, I will shine and be, one of the first on the team sheet. But I mean, looking back at it now, it'd be the first thing I did if I got dropped for a performance that wasn't up there, but it wasn't too bad. I still felt like I did enough to be out there the week after, and it was probably easier to drop someone like myself who'd come through the academy and not been someone they'd brought for a couple of million. I understand that, but now I've grown up and I've got more experience now, and if Colorado, if the gaffer was to drop me, now I'd be straight on that door and knocking it, and that's what managers like as well.
I think you got to. I think no matter what age you are, I think you should always. I was going to ask you there when you go on loan to Yeovil and later on, what was the dialogue like? Because I was in the exact same position at Wolves. I got sent out to Bristol City, but I'm on the phone to Mick McCarthy all the time because I was sent out to get myself fit because I was playing catch up because I broke my foot earlier. So, and I think, how was that dialogue when you were out the team and when you were going on loan? Because it serves a purpose for the club and for yourself. You're getting minutes, but like you say, when things got hard, you were the person that they brought back to go in and steady the ship.
I remember Kenny Jackett pulling me after training one day and saying, listen, we think it's going to be good for you. You're not really in the plans at the moment, which I wasn't. I wasn't playing. I wasn't even on the bench. And he said it'd be good for you to go down to Yeovil and have a month, play 5 or 6 games, keep your fitness up, and then, come back if you wanted. And so I knew I was going there, like you say, for a purpose. It wasn't just them just getting rid of me. It was me, and to grow up a little bit, because like I say, I was comfortable here. I hadn't never been on loan, never moved from home, so that as well. And Yeovil was a good 3.5 hours away. It's in the sticks. So that, I think, being under Gary Johnson, at the time, and that was tough. He was a solid manager. He was a strong personality, and it was a tough time because it was a lot of players in that dressing room that would give you a hard time if you weren't performing. Whereas here, at the time, I was a lad that come through. They probably say I was a young lad, he'll develop. But when you go on loan, that just goes out the window. They expect you to be the best player. I've come from Wolves, I'm at Yeovil, and then I go to Leyton Orient. They had some big players. They had the striker Henderson there, big boy Darius Henderson. They had Joby McAnuff, players like this, big characters, big leaders, and so I had to jump straight into it and sort of grow up. I did. Yeah,
would you say that's good man management then from Kenny then? Because he said to you, look, not in the plans at the minute, but go get your games, and if you want to come back, so he's basically saying to you,
it's up to you.
Up to you, yeah.
I think it's great management. I think they should do that more at clubs. And I come back, I think it was the end of November when I think Wolves had lost 4 or 5 in a row.
Well, I got to hear they lost 5 in a row. They hadn't won for 6.
I remember having a missed call off Kenny and thinking, oh, please be calling me back. Do you know what I mean? I injured my foot at Orient, so I was out for a month, so I was hoping this was my time. And so I got that call. I rang him back. He said, Pricey, we need you to come back and steady the ship, and I did. And I had the rest of that season I played a lot, and we just missed out on the playoffs that year, and that was probably one of my best seasons in a Wolves shirt, apart from the League One winning season.
Well, including cup games, you actually went the next 10 matches unbeaten when you come back. So you went from 6 games without a win, 5 defeats on the bounce, to being unbeaten in 10. And there was a penalty shootout defeat in the cup in that, but in the actual games were kind of drawn in that setup. So, what an impact.
Yeah, but that's what that does for you. You've got the missed call, you're hoping what it is, but him to say, look, we need you back. Yeah. You walk into the...
You do.
You do, don't you? And that's straight away, you're just bossing it and you're feeling back in your groove.
It's weird, you do. You walk in, your head's high and your chest is pumped out, and you're thinking, these lads are confidence a bit low. They've lost 1 in 5, and I thought, it's my time to step up, and obviously you say we went unbeaten in 10 games, and I was probably a key part of that at the time, and I would like to see myself as well as a bit of a joker, you know, around the place,
which is needed.
Exactly, and I think that was important at the time as well. The lads were down, so to come back and obviously the players to see a familiar face and you know they could have a crack with me. I think that also helped around the training ground.
Do you think that sometimes though that might have played against you a little bit, that you were too good for morale purposes, but you, as you say, you weren't always knocking on the manager's door saying put me in the team?
I didn't really give the managers enough, you know, headaches in terms of playing time. I got comfortable. I was, like you say, they see me as I've got good morale. I'd never moaned if I wasn't really playing. I was always happy to be here, and I think that did, you know, that was a negative effect on me getting more game time probably. Yeah, I just accepted the fact I was here, you know, I was part of a great club, but I was never really pushing myself to, you know, be out there every week. But no, that probably did play a downfall on my career here. Yeah.
You did have an amazing partnership with Kevin Mcdonald, though.
Loved playing with him. Loved it.
Because he too is a bit of a character.
Yeah, we were good pals. Yeah,
is that why it worked?
Probably. Yeah, we were just as close on the pitch as we were off the pitch. You know, we'd have nights together. We'd have food and stuff together off the pitch, and they were probably my best days as a Wolves player, playing with him. You know, obviously he's gone on now to be Premier League regular for Fulham, and you know everyone could see his quality. But me and him just sort of worked. I could let him go and do what he wanted if I was, you know, covering for him. If he was to give the ball away, and you know, I'd win it back for him and give it him again. And it was just that partnership we had on the pitch. You could tell we had a close one off the pitch as well.
How important is that? You know, it's funny because Ali touched on it last week about relationships with players and team bonding and going and doing things. How important is that you do get on off the pitch and on the pitch? Because funny enough, I'll throw Silva into the match again.
Yeah.
Me and Silva never spoke for 2 months when I was sitting in front of him in the goal scoring charts.
Yeah.
When he got the one goal in front of me,
He wants to know you.
all right, Limbs.
Yeah.
But that's what made Silva different. That's what made him that goal getter. So how important are those relationships?
I think, like you say there, it's as long as you've got a good relationship on the pitch. Sometimes it doesn't really matter, I don't think, off the pitch. But I think for me and Kev, it was important that we got on off the pitch, because if I was to do something bad, you know, give the ball away and they have a chance to score a goal, if he was to bollock me, I wouldn't take it too personally. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's someone I didn't really get on with or didn't like, you chirp back, or do you know what I mean? So it probably is key, them sort of relationships. So like I say, I could say whatever I wanted to him, he could say it back. That'll be it. After the game, go for a beer, whatever, forget about it, have a laugh, be the same. But if it was someone you didn't really get on with, you'd probably hold a grudge against them, and you couldn't wait until they made a mistake, so you could go and hammer them. But I suppose that's part and parcel of it. You can't like everyone, I suppose, but
No, you can't.
But yeah,
because the way that partnership worked, like, and it kind of had different elements to it at different times. Like in League One, obviously you were playing against different levels of teams and different things, and there was obviously, you know, you'd sometimes have Lee Evans playing in the 10 role sometimes, whose job was to just run around a lot, otherwise it was Dave Edwards. And then in that period in the Championship, it was like, we've talked before on this podcast about when we had Scott Goldborn in, and we were talking about Sacco, Afobe, Dicko, and then Henry or Van La Parra. But for you two in the middle of it were almost as important, because you played it short, Kev could go long.
What made that so good, I think, me and Kevin in the middle, it was easy. Our job was the easiest playing with them sort of players. You know, all we had to do was get the ball, give it to Sacco, give it to James Henry, Van La Parra, Dicko, Afobe, all these players, and you knew they were going to go and do something special. And it might have took them 80, 85 minutes to wake up some games, but you just knew if you get that ball out to Sacco and he's got a chance to let rip, he was gonna score. And for me and Kev, it was well, for me, I'm speaking now personally, that was the easiest job I've ever had in a Wolves shirt. Get the ball, give it to them, win the ball back. It was as simple as that. And obviously, I've still got to do my bit in terms of getting the ball to them. But once I did, all I had to do then was shore it up in the midfield. I could even let Kev go and do what he liked and join in with, you know, with the Fab Three. And they were great to play with. They were, honestly, in training, they do things that you think, oh, I wish I had that pace, that strength, that skill. But then looking back on it, doesn't make you who you are as a player, and you can't really say, I want that, I want this. You play to your strengths and your weaknesses, and they were fun times at Wolves. You know, it was a shame they had to move on in the end, because I think if we'd kept them players, we could have pushed on even more.
Well, talking about scoring goals, this guy's trying to take your first goal for the club off you. Talk to me about this. Look at me, he knew what was coming.
He's tried that for years.
Explain yourself, Mikey. Or Digger.
Like, look, right. So, for people who might not have seen this, it was a game against Watford when we were flying at the time.
We were.
Getting towards the playoffs. And I think they were coming back from 2-0 down in the game. We've just been watching it, and I was showing Looms on the video of it. And you don't see it as much. So Courtney Hawes, who's a young kid, has not long got into the team. I remember at Watford away, he's has an awesome shot that comes back off the crossbar. And I'd spoken to Courtney, and he'd talked about what it would mean to him to actually get a goal. So as this corner gets cleared out, he strikes it from distance, and it's a great hit, and it deflects off someone's backside and goes into the back of the net. And Courtney obviously has this amazing moment, like the high and low of football, where he thinks he scored this glorious goal, and then he looks up and sees he's running away to celebrate.
Can I ask you one thing? Was Courtney's shot going on target?
Maybe.
Honestly,
Do you think when it left Courtney's foot that he knew where it was going?
At the time, I thought he knew where it was going.
It came off
me.
and still went into the keeper's
Yeah, but
left.
you can't claim it. It came off your bum. You weren't even not watching.
I tell you what, I've claimed goals that never even touched me. I feel the air go by my face, and I'm running to the corner.
He's running off doing the shearer.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Chris is here today, because you've been at that for years. Years you have trying to take that off. That was my first goal. How much that meant for me.
Exactly.
You can see the way I celebrated how much it meant to me. I don't
Cult
care
hero,
what
he
Courtney.
says. Cult hero, eh?
Yeah.
But that's part of how he became the cult hero, because it was the whole Lion King celebration
Danny
as well.
lifted me up, yeah. It was great. And obviously, like I said, that was my first goal. So I don't really care if Courtney wants to claim it. He knows it come off me.
But like at the time, because the way you celebrated it, you were fully claiming that goal straight away.
Well, I knew it'd hit me.
That's it. You just
So as soon as it hit me,
what's the keeper doing?
what's he doing? And it thrown him off, didn't it? Because he went like that, off his finger and in. He would have caught that. I'm telling you now, first goal for Wolves, that was. What a moment. What a
Different
moment.
class.
You did score another goal, which again I've been showing Looms, which was a proper goal this time.
Yeah.
Away at MK Dons, and it made me laugh so much because Looms, we had this thing where people would always message in ahead of the game their predictions for it, and there was me, and there was a fan at the time who was called, his Twitter handle I think was One Simple Tom, and he was a student who lived in London, and he listened to all the games, and me and him were effectively the Jack Price fan club. And we would always, if people ever asked me what my prediction was before a game, I'd always say 3-0 Jack Price hat-trick.
Taking a mickey out of me, isn't he?
Well, no, and we'd had conversations for months beforehand about what celebration Pricey would do if he ever scored another goal, which was to do with darts, because you're a massive darts fan, and we used to talk about darts a lot. So if he ever scored, he was supposed to do like a 180 dart celebration, like all the way through. So he scores, he's running towards the corner flag, I'm going mental on commentary, and I'm thinking, this is the moment, here it comes, and he didn't do it.
I'm sure
The reason I didn't do
a little
it,
knee slide came out.
it was. Well, to be fair, I had a little pat on the badge as well. I'm glad I didn't kiss it. But Chris knows as well. In that moment, it's the best feeling in the world. And sometimes, especially for me, I don't score many, so I wasn't sure really what to do. A little knee slide, a little pump for the chest, and everyone was here celebrating with me. So I do apologise for not doing that.
Because it wasn't your job, really, was it?
No, to be honest, to this day, I cannot tell you why I was in the box. I think we broke from a corner, and I must have just thought, I think we had about 5 or 6 lads running. I thought, you know what, I fancy myself here. And the ball's come across, it's got a little nick off Alfie, and then just there just to tap it in, and 2-1 win. MK Dons away. That was a big win for us, actually.
It was, yeah.
Because we were flirting with the bottom then, and got us up a couple of places.
It wasn't a great season.
That wasn't. That was, like we touched on before, about, I think we had 4 games at home, didn't we, where we drew 0-0, and we just couldn't score. And, when you can't score goals, it's never great, and we were conceding too many, and that's, we did well in the end, not to probably not go down, but be a bit safer than we were in that time. And we had a couple of seasons, didn't we, where we mid-table-ish, and not hard times, but it was tough to play in them teams as well.
I was just going to ask, in those times where you, like you say, you find it hard to score with the quality that you've got.
Yeah.
Like what is it like? Because you're sitting saying, well, that's not part of my game, getting the goals. What do you do then differently about yourself? Like, because you can keep it ticking over, keep getting on the ball, the passing, but then do you take a certain responsibility on? I'm going to let one go here, or
no, exactly that. I thought my game was never to get in the box or to score goals. That's never been my game, even though I'd like it to be more. But it was times where you're thinking to yourself, I'm gonna have to step up here. I'm gonna have to maybe try and chip in with a few goals. But it was never my game, and I maybe had a few shots that probably sailed over behind my shoulder and into the stand. But yeah, it was tough. I think it was more tough for the strikers, as yourself. If you're having a spell where you're not scoring goals, you're thinking, when's the next one going to come? Mm-hmm. But when it does, you get back to free flowing, scoring. But that was tough for every player. We had no confidence going into games. We were coming here thinking, well, we're not going to score, so if we can keep a clean sheet, we're going to get a point. And it was a bad way of looking at it. And then when we did get that first goal, we thought, we're definitely going to keep a clean sheet, because we pride ourselves at the time in being solid at the back, and when we were, to be fair. And 4-0 nils at home wasn't great for the fans. We were getting booed off at half time, and which rightly so. They paid great money to watch us, and entertain them, really, and we weren't doing that at the time.
There is loads more that we're going to talk about on the podcast, including, of course, the epic performance at Man City in the League Cup as well, and kind of how you forced your way back into the plans when it looked like you might have been leaving that summer. We always try and finish our Facebook show with what we call the rundown, which is slightly quick fire, and I think this is going to be interesting. The best player that you played with at Wolves?
Kevin Mcdonald.
The worst trainer at the club?
Grant Holt. You speak to him, he would tell you now, in training, runs around, has a laugh, not really asked, goes and scores hat-trick on a Saturday. But that's him, and he's a great lad.
Who was the biggest moaner?
James Henry. Oh, God. If he wasn't picked on a Saturday, he would let you know. He would go in, he'd be knocking the manager's office to start with, but yeah, James Henry moaned everything.
Who is your best friend in football?
Best friend? Kevin Mcdonald and Joe Mason, to be fair. I've spent the last few years with Joe, and he was in America for a little bit with me, and yeah, Joe's up there with Kev, yeah.
Who had the best and the worst dress sense?
The best, Barry Douglas.
He did, didn't he?
He did, didn't he? You give it a right bash every day.
Mate, he turned up to training like he was on a night out.
But you'd say to him, where are you going after this, Barry? You go, I'm just going home. I'm like, well, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt with flip-flops. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? And then the worst. Could be Ethan Eubanks Landau,
Yeah.
with his Ugg slippers. Or Aaron McCary.
Ugg slippers.
He used to wear his Ugg slippers in. Ethan, he was very laid back,
Yeah.
Yeah, Ethan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who was the funniest player that you played with?
Kevin McDonald, yeah, hands down.
Is there anything that you can tell us that he did that's clean enough to go on this show?
He used to do something at the training ground at breakfast with his eggs. He used to get an egg. I can't really think what he used to do with it. And it was like an egg trick, he said. And he'd chuck it in the air or something, and he'd catch it. And first time he did it, he's launched it in the air, and he's just boshed it on his head. And it's just come down on its face. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Like, it's just weird. That's probably the cleanest one.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. We'll save some of the
Not
rest
the
for the
best,
podcast,
yeah.
and we'll put them on and see if we can have to edit out bits of them. Who was the best manager that you worked for in your time?
That's a tough one.
Because there was quite a lot. I mean, even when you were first making it through.
You know what? I'm going to say Kenny Jackett, because he gave me my chance in first team football. It was that season when he come in, and that he gave me my chance to play. So I owe him everything, really. And he was a great manager as well as that. Yeah.
Next question is what's the best goal you scored? So for the importance of it.
Well, it's got me the one on Colorado last year, hasn't it? Not for Wolves this time.
But in your Wolves time, or you can add in.
I haven't got many, have I?
That you can, if you don't want to pick one of the two, the one that went in off your bum or the tap in from 6 yards, you can pick a goal that you saw scored.
I've got to do the tap in. It's a proper goal. I've kicked it.
That one's your first.
I've kicked
Yeah,
it.
but that's just hit me, innit? Really?
We hit-
I did. I did shimmy it a little bit. I did shimmy it, yeah.
I just love the fact that the best goal you've scored is that you went, it's a proper goal. I kicked it.
I kicked it. 4 yards out. Open goal.
Just to finish, and we'll do the rest on the podcast extra. What was your proudest moment at Wolves?
That's a really good question. Obviously, my debut. My first start with Sheffield United at home. Got man of the match. It's probably my proudest. I had on my whole family here, and I played really well. And also, picking up that League One trophy the same season was a highlight. I remember having a picture after with my dad's got the medal around his neck, and that was nice to see. Obviously, they're very proud of me, and that'll stick with me forever. Yeah, definitely that season. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to finish off the rundown. We're going to talk about Manchester City, and we're going to talk about quite a few other things as well, including some potentially quite rude stories about Kevin Mcdonald, which will be on our podcast, available to download from iTunes, from Google, and everything else as well. Don't forget, by the way, if you want to win 2 pairs of tickets to be in the Wolverhampton Building Supplies box for the Liverpool game just before Christmas, follow at WV Build Supplies on Twitter, or you can leave us a rating and review on iTunes, and you can be in with a chance of getting yourself a pair of tickets to be in an executive box, thanks to Wolverhampton Building Supplies, our sponsor of the Old Gold Club podcast. Thanks very much.
The Old Gold Club, powered by Wolverhampton Building Supplies, with Mikey Burrows and Chris Iwelumo.